Alright guys, I am slightly sick, but I really wanted to make this video because Paladins is a game that does actually mean quite a lot to me, even if you didn't know it. So I wanted to make this video on why Paladins deserved better. Because as you might know, Paladins is essentially dead, as it will no longer receive any updates. But I thought this would be the perfect time to talk about a game that I love. And the first reason why is the systems. Like, obviously Overwatch now has perks, right, which is really big, but this game kind of did it before them. In a very different way. So let's just choose any champion. I don't know who to pick. We'll go Androxus, right? So at the start, you're able to pick talents. Being able to pick a talent just changes the way your character plays and essentially changes what you're going to do. On tanks, there was a off-tank talent and a main tank talent, essentially, for most of them, right? I mostly played Makoa, and Makoa had pluck, which would mean you were playing off-tank because your hook now made it so you did more damage to people after hooking them. But his main tank one, the point tank, or whatever you want to call it, right, was half shell, where you could drop your shield and then still fight while in your shield. But see, Androxus has all these different ones that people pick, and then the next thing is you get to pick cards. So these are essentially like builds. These are almost like, think League rune pages, but you get a specific rune page for every single character. So they have a selection of just different cards that you can pick that will change how you play, right? So now, on this character, if I reverse, it shoots afterwards. Without that talent, it doesn't do that. It's cool that it's able to change that type of thing. In itself, like before I get to the next system, in my opinion, added so much replayability to this game that Overwatch didn't have, right? Like Overwatch is a lot more, it's simple. Like Paladins is like, builds were getting changed, you were doing this because you could experiment with this thing. You could, like, you know, if you played one talent, you played another one, you might like not like a character much, but they got a talent rework that you really like playing. For example, you like playing this reversal in Androxus, but the other one's not as fun or whatever, right? And vice versa for all the other talents, right? Cards, you might really like one playstyle, so you lean all the way into it, even if it's not strong. That's what you like, and it doesn't really matter. You kind of just play what you do like, and that. It's just so good. It's so fun. I can't lie. And the next thing is, as you can see here, there's a press I to purchase items. You could buy things. Now the way this worked isn't like League. It's not like you build specific items. It's like these things, and you can build 4 of them, and then like max them out like this, right? So maybe I want to buy Rejuvenate because I need more healing. Maybe with one healer, we need more healing from them. I'm gonna do that. Maybe I really want to reduce my cooldown so I could spam abilities. I would do this sometimes with Makoa with my half shell build, so that I would get shields like every second, pretty much. You might want court used to be a thing here, which was very important. You might want some reload time increase. You might want this thing, and then you can buy that. So now you get reload quicker. And if I do one of my abilities like this one, it's back quicker than it was. It's huge. It means you can dynamically change the way the game is going. So say you get into a team, right? But you go against people that have a bunch of shields. You can buy blast shields, but you could pick different things to make your character work and things. So counters didn't really feel like they existed as much because, well, they kind of didn't. There was definitely like harder matchups for people, but you could always find a way to play around it. And that was what was great. I think these systems do a lot, and I literally have said this before. If you just put all the systems that Paladins has in Overwatch, it would literally be like a perfect, like it would just be perfect. And this is kind of just because this game is based more on MOBAs than Overwatch is. Overwatch definitely feels like it leans more into shooter, whereas this leans more into MOBAs, which definitely kind of leads me on to the next point of unique champions. Overwatch definitely has some unique champions, heroes they call them. And I'm not going to say they aren't unique, they definitely are. There's some great characters in there. Genuinely, it's super good. But Paladins, because it was like less popular, could almost be wackier and come up with like MOBA style characters. Like obviously you saw I was playing, Androxus guy who just shoots and whatever. But you also just had like the most unique character to ever exist in the entire game, in the entirety of gaming history. But this character would never exist in Overwatch, just be real. Put them in Overwatch and oh my god, the game is perfect. You can swing from things. Like, this is just seriously the most fun character to ever exist in video games. Like every time I wasn't playing like a ranked game or whatever and I was trying to have fun, this is the character. Like she's just this comboing, fast-paced movement character that just has these really sick combos and stuff. This is just peak character design, and that's because they could get weird with it and try things. When things work, they really worked. Anyway, my next point, champ levels. So champions had multiple different levels. If you played a champion a bunch, it's like the hero mastery that we now have or whatever. You level them up. So you see here, I have a level 37 Makoa or whatever, right? You level them up, and as you level them up, you get different rewards. You unlock different playstyles. You can unlock these skins. Now they stopped doing the cosmic obsidians and whatever for new characters, but the principle was still there, and the system was still there, and it was really, really good. You got the golden Makoa at the end or whatever, right? You get these titles if you really, really, really heavily level the character up. It's just something really cool just to show off that you play that much of that character, right? And it's just something else to grind out. And I think that seriously is like, it's half there in Overwatch. We've got it, and you get some stuff. There just needs to be more. There needs to be more things to get. I saw an idea in a random comment from someone somewhere that said that the hero levels should give hero loot boxes, right, in Overwatch. So like if you reach like level 10 on a hero, or 50, 100, like the big ones or whatever, you get like a legendary hero loot box. It'll give you one legendary, it'll give you like an emote, some sprite, like it'll give you like all the stuff for that hero. And I think that would be great. That just rewards you from like playing, right? But also they don't have to give away too much because it's still technically a loot box. So, you know, I think stuff like that would seriously be incredible. And that's what Overwatch feels like is missing. Paladins has. This has mainly been my point, is that Paladins has so much stuff in it that's actually really, really good and well designed, but just wasn't given all the polish and love that it needed. Another thing I want to talk about is bans. In ranked, they have hero bans, they have a ban phase and a pick phase. It definitely goes on for a bit long, and I don't love it necessarily, but it definitely adds a big dynamic to it, and I really like hero bans, and I think it's a good system. But I'm gonna not talk about it too much because Overwatch is getting hero bans. It is a thing that exists in Paladins, and it is great in Paladin. Another thing is the unique game mode of Siege. So Siege is the main game mode, almost like how Valorant and CS, right, have a one game mode you play across different maps or whatever. Paladins kind of world like that, and they went into the world of this one game mode called Siege, which means you capture a point and then you have to push the payload. Not hybrid. It was balanced. Like the map's almost mirrored. It's like Control with payload, if you know what I mean. And having that one game mode means they can balance it so much. I wouldn't mind playing Siege in Overwatch. Seriously, I think it's a great game mode. It's tense, feels fair and balanced. I also want to move on to another soft point. I don't have much to say about this, but Paladins is also 5v5, and it always has been, but it really works. And I don't fully understand the nuance of why it works so well. I think it is because it's open queue, and it's always been designed on open queue, and the game doesn't feel bad when you don't necessarily get what you want. Now, yes, if you got 5 flanks, you would probably lose the game to a good team comp. But people genuinely, because each class is so fun, people actually just play and flex, right? Like, I'm not a tank player in any video game, but Makoa was my main character in this game. He was so fun, and I would play him constantly, right? You'd always get people wanting to play tank. You just swap around and play because people don't one trick as hard because every character is really fun. I think that's one of the reasons it works, and every role is fun. But then also, because it's not like a strict clear 2-2-2 type of thing, or like 1-2-2, it's more of you basically had either 2 tanks or 2 supports was really your like where you doubled mostly, right? So you could do it where you just had a main tank and then you had like 2 supports and then the rest with the DPS, right? Or you could have it so it was the 2 tanks, the main tank and the off tank, and then it was just 1 support. I think that's how it worked. I haven't played it in like ages, but I remember that was very much the way you did team comps. And having those 2 different ones, having that dynamicness to it, where the players figure it out, definitely works better. The game wasn't forcing any of it. Overwatch, when it initially launched and it was open queue, still felt like it was designed to be 2-2-2. It didn't feel like it was designed to be anything, right? And I know that's very difficult, and Paladins isn't necessarily perfect at that either, but it definitely has a lot more, a lot less of like, we're gonna lose because they're playing there. Like, it's definitely feels more dynamic, and I think that could be because of cards, talents, and the items, but as well as just every character's fun, and there's just this way it works really well. I don't know. It's almost like how in League people just figured out they have to double up bot with a marksman, or they the jungler has to, you know what I mean? They figured out what works, and then the game was like, okay, you guys figured out what works. We're gonna like push your narrative almost. I think that's really, really, really good. And Paladins are the same thing. My last point is, as you probably would have noticed, Paladins uses MOBA style like numbers for things. So like your health is like 30,000. Instead of just having 300 health like in Overwatch, you're given like an extra 3,000 health or something. Not 30,000. You're given a bunch of health and you do lots of different damage. Essentially, you have more numbers to work with and more ratios to work with, which means burst is really not a thing. Like, bad burst doesn't really exist. Now, it can. People, Paladins diehards in the last 2 years are going to tell me, oh, this character. But the way I remember it was I never was like really like, oh my god, I just died in 2 seconds. And I did, it was completely my fault. But there is just, everyone felt like the numbers made sense. And it feels like how the League numbers feel. Now, definitely League again has huge bursts and huge amounts of damage, but it's less in the sense of like, oh, Hanzo Arrow just took you out. But it meant these characters still work. There are snipers, and they work. Now that Paladins is dead, take all the things from Paladins that were good, like all the things I've listed and all the other stuff, and just shove it in your game. I'm telling you, it'll work so well. I'm not saying suddenly change to the MOBA numbers, suddenly change to like all these random stuff. You don't need cards. But I definitely think it would be more interesting to see what kind of things you could do along that. Like, perks is a good start, but I definitely think you could push the systems more. But I do really like perks. And I do think maybe keeping it simple is also a good idea. But hey, you can always try things. Stadium looks like loads of fun. Stadium feels like it reminds me of Paladins. And that's going to be great. So anyway, thank you guys for watching. This was a bit of a scuff video. It was kind of like, I'm slightly ill and I'm just kind of talking and whatever. I'll put gameplay up in the background. I'll throw that stuff up on screen. It would have been cool to make it fully like, scripted and well made, but that's the game. Thanks for watching. Paladins deserve better. Subscribe if you want more content. I'm starting to do more various content. Like, I have more ideas for stuff like generally talking. So if you want to stick around for that, that's fine. Instead of just making direct Overwatch videos, it's stuff similar, but like, you know what I mean. So anyway, thanks for watching. Peace out. I'm mid as fuck.